Speaking at a deployment site in northern Gaza, where Israel claims to have gained military control, Mr. Netanyahu said the country will not stop the war with Hamas at the present time, despite its strength. Pressure is increasing both at home and abroad. We will not stop. The war will continue until the end, until we stop. Nothing more, nothing less. Whoever talks about stopping, there is absolutely no such thing, Reuters quoted Mr. Netanyahu as telling the soldiers. In addition to calls for a ceasefire from the international community, the leader is also facing criticism in Israel because the number of soldiers killed in this country is increasing while the government has not achieved military success. Clarity, as well as because of the fact that more than 100 hostages are still being held in Gaza. In a speech at the Knesset, Israel's parliament, on December 25, Mr. Netanyahu defended the military campaign in Gaza, saying, military pressure was needed to rescue the hostages and said Israel would overthrow every stone to achieve this goal. He also reaffirmed that the war is far from over, and revealed that he had contacted Russia, China and Pope Francis to ask for help. Relatives of the hostages interrupted Mr. Netanyahu's speech to parliament and called for the hostages' immediate rescue, according to The Guardian. Later, protesters gathered near the Israeli Defense Ministry headquarters in downtown Tel Aviv before a war cabinet meeting. Mr. Netanyahu arrived in Gaza when Egypt was said to have proposed a three-step plan to end the fighting between Hamas and Israel, according to the Wall Street Journal. The newspaper has accessed the document presenting this plan and commented that this is the most comprehensive peace plan offered to both warring sides in the conflict that has so far lasted 11 weeks. Egypt's plan. According to The Guardian, the three-step plan would include an initial pause in hostilities for at least a week and the release of all Israeli civilian hostages still held in Gaza, followed by a week in which female Israeli soldiers will be released in exchange for Palestinian prisoners in Israeli prisons, and finally a month-long negotiation period for the release of male Israeli soldiers in exchange for Israel's withdrawal from Gaza. But Reuters on the evening of December 25, citing two Egyptian security sources, said that Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, PIJ, had rejected Cairo's proposal. Reuters sources revealed that the plan calls for Hamas and PIJ to relinquish power in Gaza in return for a lasting ceasefire. Two officials from Hamas and PIJ later denied what the sources said about the negotiations. Mr. Izzat al-Rishk, an official from Hamas's political office, said, there can be no negotiations unless the invasion is completely stopped. The Hamas leadership is aiming with all its might to completely, not temporarily, end the invasion and massacre of our people, Reuters quoted the official, referring to more than 20,000 Palestinians were killed in the war that broke out on October 7. Egyptian sources said both Hamas and PIJ, which are holding separate talks with Egyptian officials in Cairo, have refused to offer any concessions beyond the possible release of more hostages. Meanwhile, Israel's war cabinet plans to discuss Egypt's plan on the evening of December 25, according to the Wall Street Journal. In an article published in this newspaper on December 25, Mr. Netanyahu outlined 3 prerequisites for peace, including destroying Hamas, demilitarizing Gaza, and de-radicalizing Palestinian society.